Hey guys, Courtney here with Knowledge Well Media. It is June the 8th, 2020. I wasn't going to drop any videos today, but decided before I get started here detailing on this car, shameless plug there, we have Interspec Auto Details if you're in the Wisconsin area. All right, so give us a call, 414-326-5284. But anyhow, was listening to one of my young African brothers, and he was talking about the atrocities that are happening, the riots, the Black Lives Matter being taken over. People are name dropping George Soros and other elitists, and he was just outlining how the people, I believe he's speaking to the African nation, that we need to come together and stop jumping on the bandwagon as everybody is trying to vie for some type of authority, some type of stand, push back against government, against elitists, and all this kind of stuff. I appreciate all the messages that are coming out. I think that people mean well. And I also think that a lot of disinformation is coming out. A lot of emotional engagements are happening versus an educated, researched perspective, if you will. And I think that's causing more harm than good. And so I'm just kind of freestyling here a little bit, so bear with me. I really want to come from the heart on these things. I haven't sounded off lately, even during the riots and during the death of George Floyd and all that. I haven't really sounded off. I've been kind of sitting back in the cut, doing my research and studies. Sometimes when an event takes place, you can check yourself to see if it's an emotional engagement, for the most part, if you're quick to act, instead of thinking it through, mulling it over, chewing on it a little bit and seeing what comes out, okay? So that kind of, if you're wondering where I've been, that's kind of been my status and standing during this whole event. I've just kind of been waiting to see what comes out of all of this, what kind of smooths out, and so I can think intellectually with, like I said, a researched perspective. Okay, so what I've come to in a nutshell is whether or not George Floyd was murdered, whether he was part of a psyop, or whether he wasn't murdered and this was all a false flag or black swan, whatever you want to call it. Either way, guys, the end result is still the same. All right, so not discounting, what everything looks like, the white on black crimes, slavery issues, civil rights movements. I'm not discounting any of that. I'm just saying, look at the end result of all of this, and it is our society in chaos. Now, there's also another part of the argument that says that if we keep marching silently, if we don't do larger scale demonstrations and things, that will never be heard. We as the African, okay? Okay, there's that debate as well. But again, who wins out of chaos? Okay, you ever heard the mantra or the saying that that there's order out of chaos, that someone wants chaos so that they can bring in the new order, right? You heard that. So since we know that to be true, we have a responsibility to be more researched, to exercise our rights, but more from an intellectual standpoint, and not just lose it and go out and do all kinds of stupid stuff. All right. So, however, I do know that I do believe in myself that there is a war, whether it's contrived, constructed, or whatever, against the African nation. I mean, I think most of us generally agree to that, okay? For whatever the purpose. If it's that certain whites are afraid that they will lose their dominance and control, and be taken over, whatever it may be. To me, it's irregardless, okay? Because we all have to breathe the same air, all right? We all have to support our families, okay? We have to do what's best for all of mankind and contribute, right? Because we all want to generally live, and take care of what we need to take care of. I think we all have that in common. Okay? We're all mixed up, as far as race-wise, nationality-wise, right? We all got a little bit. I did my Ancestry.com. I know that's kind of controversial. Some people say don't do it, but I did it. I was in search of something. I wanted some information about myself, and I did that. And it came back that I have like 7% Irish in there. Over the majority, it says that 78% or 80, upwards of 80% was African, but there are other things in there. And so, surprisingly, no native though. There was no native in there. That's interesting, I thought. But we all have different things in us, okay? We didn't control what they being our forefathers and foremothers, and what the slave owners on the plantations, interloping and molesting the slaves and all this kind of stuff. Okay, we didn't have any really control of that, but we're dealing with the results of that. Okay, and I think for the most part, we're all pretty much tolerant of each other. I mean, we see each other in the store, and whether we speak or not, it's irregardless. We're taking care of business. We're busy like bees, We're going out and getting the pollen and bringing it home and making honey, right? We're all doing that, Generally, if someone's in a car accident, they're not going to look and see, or the bystander's not, going to look and see what color the individual is that got into the accident before they react, right? I mean, that's just general. So I personally don't believe that this whole racial narrative is an issue everywhere in the country. I don't think that. I think the majority, it's the opposite for the majority. But kind of getting back on point, I contend that we are in a grand experiment, kind of like a grand Truman Show, a Monopoly game. And there are people that are orchestrating these events. I think for the most part, we generally agree on that, right? So we have to look beyond, beyond the strings that are making us dance, right? Like the puppet. We have to look beyond the strings, as I always want to say Alice in Wonderland, but it's not. It's Wizard of Oz. We got to look beyond that curtain. There's someone pulling the strings and levers. Okay? And they're doing it to reach their own agenda. Okay? And so let's stop focusing at the strings, guys, at what's attached to us individually, our color, our race, let's stop looking at the strings that are attached to us and look a little bit higher and see who actually has the piece that's pulling the strings, right? That's the common problem. Okay? Now there's talks about defunding the police agencies in, I think, Minneapolis or whatever. My standpoint on that is the police aren't necessarily constitutional officers. Okay, there's only one constitutional officer, and that's the Shire of the Reef, the sheriff. Okay, the police are under the executive branch. They're an administrative agency. That's hence the term or the title, policy police enforcer. They're a policy enforcer. They enforce the statutes and policies that the legislature sets out. Okay, but what we all too often have forgotten is that there's this thing called the Supremacy Clause. I think it's I want to say Article 6, okay? The Supremacy Clause. You can look that up. Don't take my word for it. But I know it's called the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause states that the Supreme Court and the Constitution is supreme to the state legislatures and things like that. Okay, which the police department is somewhere in the executive branch. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is, even if you defunded them, maybe I didn't put that, I hope I put that where you can understand it. But anyways, the, even if we defund the non-constitutional police officer, all that's saying is that we agree as the people, we the people, to step up and take the responsibility and be accountable for what the police officer once was held accountable for. That means now you will have to, dare I say it, exercise your Second Amendment rights to protect your neighborhood and your friends and family and bystanders and people that you don't know. When you see someone in trouble, you have to jump in now, because that's what it was before the police were given the grant to police, to enforce policies, statutes. But again, going back, the Supremacy Clause states that, again, the Supreme Court rulings, okay, and the Constitution trumps that, the state legislatures, the statutes, codes, ordinances, like parking tickets and all that. So if those statutes, codes, and ordinances, I'm kind of jumping all over, but I think it's all relevant. If those statutes, codes, and ordinances contradict with what the Supreme Court and the Constitution states, then they have to give way. Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is, the police agencies, the police force, the policy enforcers are only enforcing what the state legislatures, the state has issued out. Okay, so but those statutes cannot usurp the Constitution. They cannot usurp the Supreme Court rulings when the Supreme Court says that you have a right as an individual, as a citizen, to exercise constitutionally protected rights. Okay? So what am I saying? Okay, fine. Defund the police agencies. I mean, a lot of people are going to lose jobs, but you know what? The people have a right to say, if there's an abuse of power, we're going to take back that power, because guess what? It's we the people that gave the power to the states, to the legislatures. We give the power to government, right? So we have the right to take it back if there's an abuse of power. So I'm not against the voice that's calling for that. I'm not necessarily against that. I don't care whether we retract those powers, fix them up and then put them back out and reinstitute something. Okay, but whenever what is the saying? It says absolute power corrupts absolutely, or something to that effect. So I personally don't believe that we should give any agency or whatever exclusive power to just wreak havoc and to make arbitrary decisions right there on the road. They're the judge, the prosecutor, and the bailiff, basically, right there on the streets. When they pull you over, they made a decision. You've done this and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Because there is a lot of violation of your constitutionally protected rights. Okay? So I do think we need to backpedal, get back to the constitutional way that the founding fathers had set up, and let the sheriff do what the sheriff is supposed to do as a constitutional officer. Okay? And so, but on another note, similar, but on another note, we have to start looking at the one that is manipulating the handheld piece of wood or whatever that is attached to the strings that are making us, that is making us dance. And I think the people are getting there. I'm hearing it. I'm hearing the rumblings of that from coast to coast here in the United States. I'm hearing it. And I like what I'm hearing. I like the protest, the peaceful protests and things like that. I like the discussion about possibly defunding the police officers or the agencies, because, another thing I hear is that they're just a big gang. Well, they are I believe a union, okay? And you are essentially paying for protection, right? And even if you give some pushback, and some of the guys and the ladies are doing audits of the police departments around the nation now, that's pretty cool. I know it's not conventional, And some patriots may take the occasion to say, well, they're just doing their job and all that, but we still need checks on power. I mean, we have three branches of government for that very purpose. So why shouldn't they be auditing, people be auditing from coast to coast? I mean, I think that that is actually our responsibility as we the people. Because when we don't take that accountability and responsibility in our own hands, things like this that we're experiencing now happen. There's so many abuses of power. Okay? Literally, we should be pulling over on the side of the road when there is an officer that has pulled somebody over, and somebody should be checking to make sure that everything is on the table, everything's above board. That is our duty. And when we stop doing that, we get abuse of power. If you are too busy to check what your hired public servant is doing to one of your fellow, what you call citizens, then we're going to have a whole lot more of this and worse that we're experiencing today. So we have to get active. We have to get in the fight, whether that be a physical or an intellectual fight, what have you. Okay? We all have to collectively say enough is enough. It can't be it should not just be one nationality, if you will. Okay? It should not be just one group of people. All right? We all pass each other on a daily basis. When we go to the ice cream parlors, we're passing each other, nodding at each other. How you doing? You know, this is a daily thing, a routine that this is part of society. And we all need to get involved and not be just a bystander, just watching things happen, okay? So there are underlying factions that are working opposite of everything I just, stated here. There are. I have evidence, I have proof. I just don't choose to name them on a platform like this because you know what happens, right? But we do need to have this conversation. We do need to have, these debates, because that's the only way we're all going to come to some kind of cohesive decision about what's happening around us. Okay. So let's have those discussions. I don't want to make this much longer here. I did start a Facebook page, CCOP. I call it CCOP. Okay. It stands for a constitutional check on power. You can go to the Facebook and type in at CCOP, okay, research, one word, at CCOP research. And just come on there. It's time to start having these discussions. Guys, I have a lot of information, a lot of research I've been doing over the last 4 to 5 years. So a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with now, I actually called. And I have many witnesses to that. Some who thought at the time that I was just a conspiracy theorist, okay? And are now realizing, whether they admit it or not, they're realizing that I was not far off at all. And we're dealing with a lot of these things now here. So let's have that discussion, okay? I want to divulge information, but I do not believe in waging war against Caesar, okay? I don't believe in that. Okay, we have to stand individually first and then collectively after that. That's how you make changes. I have to make an individual change within myself. I have to start to act upon those decisions that in those conclusions that I've reached. And then I need to help those who want to be helped, not debate those who want to debate, or let me correct that, not argue with those who just want to argue. But debate is healthy, but it should be to come to a conclusion. This stuff that we're doing on Facebook and on these different platforms are arguments, because everybody just wants to be right, okay? They don't want to be righteous. They just want to be right about their particular perspective. Enough, we have to come together. I have ways to do that. Hit me up, CCOP Research. At CCOP Research, Constitutional Check on Power. And you can also check out my Knowledge Well. I think I'll post some videos there. I'll use the Knowledge Well Media YouTube channel. to post my videos concerning the CCOP, the CCOP, okay? All right, so what else can I put on here? I got answers for you. I've done some research. You should at least hear it. You don't have to believe it. You can fact check it for yourself, but at least hear me. Hear me out, all right? All right, so I think this has been long enough, about 20 minutes. Courtney with Knowledge Well Media. And don't forget to check out my Facebook page at CCOP, okay? Research. That's Constitutional Check on Power, all right, on Facebook. And the YouTube channel, Knowledge Well Media, all right? Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Hit that little button down there so that you get notified each time I post a video, all right? I'm not particularly crazy about, 2 and 3 videos a day, but I'll try to get more up. I mean, I got a lot of cars to do and everything like that. But it is important that we do this, okay? We all stick together. We all come together. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religious background you come from. It really doesn't matter at this point, all right? It's about saving the republic. It's about, I don't want to use Make America Great Again. I'll just say, let's make our nation, our world great again. How about that? All right? All right, Courtney with Knowledge Well signing off. Thanks for tuning in.